Hey there, James here, and you're listening to the Own the Moment podcast, the show where we explore the complex and always evolving landscape of marketing, advertising, and branding, and try to get to the bottom of what it means to be a truly memorable brand. The Own the Moment podcast is brought to you by Como Technologies, a self-service, complete customer engagement platform that helps you cut through the noise to truly connect with your customers and retain and grow those connections over time. With Como, you can build and deploy new campaigns, activations, promotions, and programs in days, not months, and our software is used by some of the world's biggest consumer brands, from Heineken to Budget, Goodman Fielder, Foxtel, JLL, Williams Racing, and McDonald's. Learn more at como.tech. Hi everyone, James here, and you're listening to a special live edition of the Own the Moment podcast, recorded live from within Seven House at Sydney's South by Southwest Festival in late October of this year. Let's get straight into it.
I'd like to welcome everyone today to this special live version of the Own the Moment podcast, and it's my great pleasure to speak to one of Australia's best marketers, Cam Luby, consumer marketing at Optus. Cam, thanks for being with me.
Thank you. And thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here. This is all happening at South by, which is great to have it here in Sydney. So at Optus, our vision is to be Australia's most loved everyday brand with lasting customer relationships. And that's not something that just lives in the marketing department that we put on a slide and walk away from. That's something that the entire company rallies behind. And for that reason, we think of brand in quite a big sense. It's also when people are designing products for our customers. It's when our frontline staff are interacting with potentially new customers, all sorts of different things. Everyone across the company is thinking about the responsibility that they have for the brand. So when we talk about our brand platform, and it starts with yes, it's not something that we're just bringing to life through marketing. It's something that really sort of powers the thinking across the whole company. So the way that we think about it starts with yes and how we came to it. If optimism is believing that good things can happen, then putting that into action, and optimism in action, that making sure that great things will happen. And that's what it starts with yes is all about. It's that first step towards making something happen. So when we are designing things for our customers, or we're thinking about the advertising we're going to make, we're thinking about how not only can we create great things for them, but we know they're also thinking themselves about how are they going to make great things happen in their everyday life. And we know that we need to have a set of products and a network that stand up to that opportunity for our customers. So it's something that we hold a standard to every single day.
That's really, really interesting. One of the things that you brought up as an example was saying yes to women's sport and World Cup, but potentially before a lot of other brands. I think, it was much bigger than probably...
We had a belief.
Yeah. And so I think, for me, that was a really good example of how you actually put yes and optimism into practice and, like you say, keep it out of just the marketing room. On that note, you appointed Dan Ricciardo, Chief Optimism Officer, a few years back. Tell me, where did that come from and what does it mean, and how involved is Dan in business?
Great question. So I think it's the fact that we have both Dan Ricciardo and also Ash Barty more recently as well, that play such a significant role in the company, goes to show that this brand platform isn't just something for making advertising. It's something that the whole company believes in. So the relationship that we have with both of those people is less sponsorship and more employment contract. Like Dan Ricciardo actually has a badge.
What?
And when he comes to Optus, he badges in, and that's something that he just loves and finds hilarious, and it makes him feel like part of the company. We actually, this hasn't happened yet. We're about to make a Dan Ricciardo signature salad at one of the cafes that we have, which is a salad that he likes. But he plays a role, in inspiring staff. He's really is a part of the company. And you'll also see what he talks about on LinkedIn as well. He's an incredibly popular sports personality on LinkedIn, but he lives and breathes the brand, and he's a part of our company in the same way Ash Barty is as well. So these are not just simple sponsorship contracts. These people are a part of our DNA.
How many hours is Dan clocking a week?
Oh, that's a good question. I couldn't tell you exactly the hours, but you can tell just by the way that he interacts with us, because I've had jobs in the past where you have deals with certain people and whatnot, and when you work with them, it feels very commercial, and it feels like oh, what do you want us to do and how many hours and let's look at the contract and all that sort of stuff. That's not the relationship that we have with Dan Ricciardo, not the and not just him and Ash Barty. There's a number of other people we work with. But whenever we reach out, the answer is yes, and they're there to help, and they want to be a part of things, and they want to be a part of the company. And they get bombarded by brands all day long. So they're saying no to a lot of other people, and they're saying yes to us. And it's because they feel a part of it, and they believe in what we're doing. And they know that we're trying to create something bigger, and we're not just using them to try and plan deals or anything like that.
How do you measure something like ambassador?
Yeah, great question. And if we had the absolutely perfect way of doing that, I would go and start that business.
Right.
So, we look at a number of different things. The main metric that we look at, we call first choice, which is a version of kind of consideration, I guess. But the important thing for us is we've recognized that there's no silver bullet. There's no one thing that you can do that will lead the whole company forward. It's actually a lot of different things that you need to do, and there's a lot of different ways people think about telcos. And certainly brand and values that the company expresses is one of those. Mm. So we work with Dan and work with Ash and others like those guys. To try and drive that brand value, and then we measure that as a part of our overall sort of brand metrics.
So it's sort of a top of funnel.
Yeah, that's right.
Interesting. There was, I'm sure you didn't miss it, there was a scathing headline in the Sydney Morning Herald at the time.
I don't believe you.
Which read, "When Optus appoints a Chief Optimism Officer, activate your bull dust," I think we can say bullshit here, detector. How do you respond to that, and why are they wrong?
Good question. So I think the headlines overall, I think that was in relation to us appointing Ash Barty as our Chief of Inspiration. I think if we were to take a look at the headlines that we saw overall, I think a lot of people saw that for what it was, which was, as I said, Ash coming into our company and being a part of, what we believe and value. I think when you think about marketing overall, I certainly think that marketers have been guilty in the past of what I would call marketing puffery.
Right.
So, we've all seen that, case study that might say, I don't know, can a new raisin brand really change the world? It just might. So we know that marketers tend to go that way. So I think that article was probably written from that perspective of someone that's seen a fair amount of that.
Right.
But I would like to think that if we scratched beneath the surface and showed some of the work that we were doing and shown how Ash was a part of our company and what we believe, they would recognize that there was no puffery in this case.
And I think there's like a broader question, which is like, how do you make sure these sorts of brand platforms feel authentic and not too disconnected from the core business, which is, I guess, the big challenge in these big brand platform plays, is how do you make them more than just nice words on a page?
Yeah, that's right. And I think one of the things that is so great about It Starts With Yes platform is it's not something that just lives at a brand level for us. It's something that we're able to take through all of the work that we do. I think a really good example of this is all of the network marketing that we do. So we have a product that we call the Living Network, which is all about giving people the ability to control their network connection. So this is something that's unique to Optus. If you are, say, at home and your kids are streaming and they're on their phones and they're playing video games and you've got an important meeting that you're about to go to and you just need to make sure that your connection is great, you can do what's called turbocharge the network. And we're the only ones that do that. Same thing on your mobile connection as well. If you go to a concert or you're going to a sporting event where you know that sometimes the network can become congested, you can turbocharge the network. Equally, you can also pause the network. Sometimes you don't want to be connected. Sometimes the connection with the people directly in front of you is way more important. So we have a product called Optus Pause. So giving people the ability to control the network and use it in a way that works for them. Coming up with that is at its core, that's an It Starts With Yes attitude. It's what can we do with our network and how do we know people are going to respond to it to make it even better for them. And that will in turn mean that, with their attitude, they can make great things happen as well.
You said something to me when we spoke the other day relating to this issue of keeping the brand platforms authentic. You said no one ever thinks they're influenced by marketing. And I think that's probably a nice way to think about it, right? These sort of big, fluffy brand platforms, they clearly work.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, just even when you talk to your friends or like no one out there says, oh yeah, I saw an ad and now I think differently about that company. Like everyone thinks they're a bit above or beyond marketing.
Yeah.
Yet here we are. I like to think that the work that we're doing works, and we've certainly got the numbers to suggest that it is. But yeah, I think the fact that it starts with yes, it's something that we demonstrate more than we just say. I think that's the power in it.
That's something you said when we spoke, was that people are more guarded with products that are part of their everyday life.
Yeah.
And how that differs from, say, luxury products. And
Sure. Yeah, and it's a little bit of a hypothesis from me, I'll admit, but I think that there are categories out there like banking or insurance or, telco would be one, where we know that we have to have a relationship with one of these companies, and we need to figure out which one it is. There can be a more meaningful connection, and it's not just a relationship that is based on price and price alone, because that's not a position that certainly we want to be in.
Right. I want to talk about the Optus brand rebound after the cyber attack. You recently posted on your LinkedIn that, and it was in the press, that Optus brand value was up $1 billion, or I think 27% in the last 12 months. So you could say the bounce back has been pretty rapid and pretty impressive. What do you put that down to? What's happened in the last 12 months? What have you focused on?
So I think it's certainly been a difficult 12 months. Obviously the cyber attack happened, and we wanted to address that and quickly sort of move on from that. Some of the big sort of insights or things that I've sort of come to learn is someone said this to me a little while ago, is that brand reputation and trust and all these kind of things they're down by the elevator and up by the stairs, which is very true. So, your brand can change overnight if you're not careful, but then you have to be consistent over a long period of time to bring that back. The other thing I would say as well is that there is no one silver bullet, right? There was no like, oh, let's just say this to people and it'll all be cool. It's, I think, that when you think about branding and brand strategy, it's incredibly similar to the way that people all interact with each other. So it was over a long period of time, and it was multiple things that we needed to do to come back. For us, it was about focus on three things. So first was, it starts with yes in the brand. We were very fortunate to have a very strong brand in the first place.
Right.
So we knew that we were building back on really strong foundations. So number one was the brand. Number two was talking about our network credentials. So we're fortunate enough to have Australia's fastest 5G. Australians love that. We cannot repeat that enough. And then also when you talk about all the great living network features that give people the ability to control their connection on top of that as well, that's a really compelling argument. And then finally, just providing great value. So that's one thing that we do every single day. So it's the combination of the prices we offer with also these extra features that you can't get anywhere else on an incredible network. All of that coming together. People, especially at this moment in time, are seeking great value. So I think the combination of these things, all and staying committed and staying focused on them has what's really helped. And then I won't lie, having a fantastic Women's World Cup, that was the little hockey stick that got us to that plus 1 billion that we're very proud of.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a moment. And I want to come back to Starlink as well, because I know that's one of the other things you've announced in the last year.
Yes.
Before we leave this topic, though, what is your take on sort of the Privacy Act and I guess, regulation more broadly?
So I know that there's a lot of talk right now about regulation that's coming. I saw the Attorney General recently made a series of recommendations that felt quite positive to me. I think one of the big things that I think will change for marketers in the right way is that you won't just be able to collect and keep. I think that's going to be if that does come about, I feel like that's a positive change. I think that it still means that, we're going to be able to use data in a meaningful way to help, enhance experiences for customers, but it's also going to mean that there's more transparency about the way that it's being used. So that's broadly speaking, that's nothing specific to Optus, but I feel like that's a positive change that we should all look forward to in the industry.
I think it's rather inevitable. actually. So I want to pivot to the Matildas and the World Cup. What went into the decision making to acquire the rights for the Women's World Cup? And how, I said before that, maybe it took the nation by surprise. Did it? Or, was it always going to be the hit that it was?
I think, obviously the Matildas doing incredibly well was the icing on the cake. But I think either way, we would have seen Australians fall in love with the tournament. How could you not? There were so many threads and themes throughout, and just the way that Australians took to the tickets in the first place. I think it was a clear demonstration of the fact that this was going to be a really meaningful event. But the Matildas and how well they did just really, I think, put it over the top. So I think the decision to be the broadcast partner of FIFA for this event happened quite a while ago, but I don't think it was a decision, and I'll admit I wasn't a part of the decision itself, but it was not one that was ever questioned. Like there was internally, there wasn't ever any, I hope this works or I hope this pays off or anything like that. There was, I think our brand platform came to life internally.
Right.
Rallying around this event, and, we almost saw it as a, it was our privilege and our responsibility to bring this to life for Australia in a way that gave them the opportunity to be as inspired as they were and excited as they were. And I think we were really proud of the fact that we were able to do that.
It is. I know I said at the beginning, but it's like amazing how well it fits into the Optimism brand platform. It's it is a perfect match.
It is, yes.
How big was it? We've all, seen the numbers flying around, but, how big was the World Cup in terms of numbers? And maybe for Optus, I'm not sure what you can share there, but...
So we don't share numbers on Optus Sport, but I will tell you it went very well. And we can leave it at that. I'll give you some more insight into some numbers that I can share around our marketing campaign. So we ran, the way that we tailored the It Starts With Yes platform to the Women's World Cup, as we said, inspiration starts with yes. And it was all about the fact that this was going to be a moment of mass inspiration, particularly for young people in this country. They're going to look at this event and they weren't going to be just swept up by the sport, but they were going to be swept up by the fact that the world was watching. Right. They can achieve anything they want, and all they need is that it starts with yes spirit, and they'll be able to go on from there. So we made a beautiful brand film with our partners at Special in New Zealand that performed very, very well for us. But what we also did was take it one step further. So for young people in Australia, so we actually awarded 64 inspiration grants. So we gave young people the opportunity to tell us, I'm inspired by the Women's World Cup to do X, Y, and Z. This is what I'm saying yes to. And we took in applications and then we gave 64 recipients to those grants. So we had almost 15,000 young people in this country write us 100 words about what they were inspired to do off the back of the Women's World Cup. And some of these entries are just remarkable. Like, I kind of was thinking to myself, I hope we don't just get please give me money kind of thing.
Right.
But, kids were talking about their hopes and their dreams and what they realized they wanted to do. Some of them were already on a journey and they wanted to go further. But the fact that so many young people engaged with this campaign, and we partnered with TikTok and had a number of TikTok influencers talking about it as well, and we just had huge engagement and a huge amount of applications. And I think that to me just really showed, one, it was us, getting out there and actually doing something with the brand platform as opposed to just saying it. But two, just the incredible response we had from young people, and for that number of them to engage with us and engage with the brand was really something very, very rewarding.
It's interesting because I think, there's so much talk about we're in a highly fragmented media market, people are more distracted than ever. But I think for me, what I found interesting about the Women's World Cup is that it shows that these mass culture events still have huge power and the ability to sort of, draw the attention of the whole nation. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously Australia is a sports mad nation.
Right.
So I think more often than not, these moments where you sort of come together around a single thing are typically sport. But even something like the recent, I forgot what it's called, Barbenheimer. Is that when Oppenheimer, even that as a sort of a moment that matters.
Yeah.
You know, there was sort of a 2-3 week period there,
Right.
where, you know, if you hadn't seen either of those films, you were kind of not really part of it.
Right.
And same thing for the Women's World Cup. If you hadn't seen the game or been able to like talk about it, you weren't really part of it. So I think, you know, some of these moments sort of transcend media fragmentation and rally us all around one point. And some of them are sort of cultural things that we, you know, that might not have an absolute epicenter, but something that we all do care about.
Yeah.
And I think how brands show up in those moments is really important. I mean, you can use them just as a pure reach vehicle if you wanted to, but I think obviously the opportunity is to go much farther than that and make your brand relevant to that moment in a way where you're adding some kind of value to it.
Yeah, I mean, the name of the show is Own the Moment, right? And I think, you know, the especially the inspiration grants feels like a very clear way that you guys owned that moment, and not just, like you say, I'm sure you got plenty of reach and subscribers and all those good things, but you also used it as an opportunity to...
Yeah, that's right. And I think it was also the thing internally that people were proud of and rallied around.
Right.
So yeah, no, I think it's a good example of
that employee aspect is interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I want to talk about AI. We obviously had the session just here an hour ago on generative AI. You know, you're leading a big marketing team. What's the talk internally around AI? Are you using it? Are you positive, negative? Give me what's your take?
Using them positive at the industry broadly. I feel like there's there's a large take on AI that trends a little bit negative.
Agree.
That trends about, you know, it's going to take people's jobs and it's going to
you can't recreate creativity.
Yeah, exactly. And it's you know, budgets are going to come down and all that sort of stuff. And you know, I mean, there's certainly management consultants out there that are making that pitch.
Right.
But I think the story that isn't spoken about enough, and the one that I would like to think that we talk about internally, is the opportunity to unleash creative potential that previously wasn't there. So there is a reality where, you know, we have more ideas than we have resources.
Right.
And so there are things that we want to be able to do that, you know, previously might have required a big photo shoot and might have taken a number of weeks and a number of contracts and all that sort of stuff, that we just wouldn't have done just because we don't have the resource, or the thing might not be so strategically significant to us that we would want to go after. We would want to spend money and time on that. But being able to use AI to explore those kind of possibilities is a really powerful thing. And that's the way that we've been using it to do things that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to do. And that, and the team's really excited about that, because it means there are, you know, sometimes more junior people on the team who, you know, otherwise would be in a little bit of a box, but now we have the opportunity to go further and use some of these tools to enable that.
Right. So where are we? You know, how far are we from you guys being able to actually ship some creative, I don't know, nationally or on TV, or, you know, for those that are maybe sort of just following from the outside, where are we at?
So we ship now.
Wow.
So we have home internet, as you would well know, excellent product. And part of our home internet plan is we have we partner with Netflix, so you're able to unlock so many months of Netflix, that kind of thing. So we came up with an idea, or I should say one of our partners came up with an idea, Big Red, where they said, wouldn't it be great to show for whatever your family is like, we've got the deal for you. And we showed a number of different what we call Netflix families. So we had a family that looked, a couple of girls that looked a little bit like Wednesday Addams. We had someone that had an afro like they were from Stranger Things. We had someone dressed in a race suit like they'd watched Drive to Survive. So we said, like, if this is what your family is like, then you need the Optus, you know, Netflix plan. And if we were to go and shoot that, that would, you know, hire a photographer, find the actors, do the thing, you know. So we would not have done that. So it's not like we're taking anything out of the industry that otherwise would have happened that way. But it meant that it's value that we were able to create for our customers. Like, that was entertaining, more entertaining than us just doing our normal sort of price and device thing. So it's entertaining. It's a great way for us to, sort of showcase our starts with yes spirit, all that kind of thing. So that's just sort of one of the things that we've done, but I think a good example of how we're using it. But again, it's giving us the ability to be unlock creative potential where previously it didn't exist.
I mean that's the the key story of technology, right? And technology allows us to do more and creates abundance. So I think that's really, really interesting. Is there anything to be cautious of, though? Are you having discussions internally, where not to use it, when not to use it, how to think about it? What's the sort of...
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. We're in the process as a company of developing a series of principles around how we use AI to make sure that we're using it safely and responsibly.
Right.
And that's going to be important for all of Australia, right? Not just for Optus, but we take that very seriously. And then, I mean, just to be sort of, open and transparent about it, I'm someone that's pretty optimistic and bullish about new things. So my attitude is often like, oh, let's try it. Yeah, let's try it. And, people on the team will say like, yeah, I love that idea, but we probably shouldn't try it here. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good point. We shouldn't do that, and we probably shouldn't try it there. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good point too. So there's someone who runs employer brand work where we show what it's like to work at Optus, and we showcase all the great people and the experience and the things. And he said, yeah, we should probably, if we're ever talking about working at Optus, it should always be our employees front and center. Like, of course, yes, absolutely.
Right.
So it's just making sure that you're getting those things right and that you're not... for me personally, that my optimism doesn't bound me into places that we should be more thoughtful about.
Do you have a sense of, how many brands at the size of Optus would be shipping generative AI right now? My sense, I'm not an expert, is that you'd be one of probably very few that have sort of dared to take that step.
I wouldn't want to speculate. I'm not sure. I'm sure I'm sure there's going to be lots of different examples, but I'm not sure.
Great. All right, I'd like to move on to the quick fire round with you, Cam. So short answers where possible. Your favorite marketing campaign of all time?
That's a good one. Short answers where possible. What actually one? I'll go. Might be a little bit weird, but I always really enjoyed the work that Milo did. And the reason that I enjoyed that is because Milo is sugar and cocoa in a tin, yet they made it represent energy and young kids getting out there and doing their best, and they tied it to Australian cricket, and they had the whole thing going on.
Yeah, they're classic ads. I agree. What do you think is the best brand in the world right now? And I guess best / your favorite.
I really like Liquid Death, which is the new water brand. I don't know if you say new anymore, but the water brand in the US that's just is turning that category on its head. I like it for the same reason that I like a lot of the work that Burger King has done with I forget exactly what they're called, the Moldy Whopper, that kind of thing. Anything that turns a category on its head.
Right.
I think, that just inspires more great marketing work overall, but certainly what Liquid Death is doing is super exciting.
It's funny, we've done about 15 of these so far, and Liquid Death
has come
up. Yeah,
great. So I'm super original.
Yeah, but yeah. All right, what's the most overrated trend in marketing right now?
Overrated trends, I would say is talking about what's going to happen as opposed to actually getting out there and giving it a go. And I know that's not really a trend, but I'll attach AI to this. Right. I think the number of things where, I hear about what's going to happen in 6 months or what's going to happen in 12 months. And I think we should be more focused on what's happening right now and sharing and learning from one another. So that would be, I'm not in, yes, I'm interested, but let's not talk about 12 months. Let's talk about now.
Sure. Funnily enough, AI has come up as an answer to that question many times. So that says something about that negativity, to your point before. So what about the opposite? What about the most underrated trend in marketing?
Underrated trend. Hopefully this isn't too boring, but I think underrated trend is just great advertising being seen by the right people enough of the time. And just the fundamentals, and we don't talk about the fundamentals enough, and the fundamentals work. And that's how you build a brand over time. I think that notion of, down by the elevator, up by the stairs, like if you want to go up by the stairs, it is, just consistency, just good, insightful advertising over enough time to the right people. That's the way to do it. And I'm a believer in that. And I think that's the thing that won't change. So that's something to focus on.
It's like that, Mark Ritson quote, like everything changes except the fundamentals. So the channels change,
Yes.
The tactics change, but...
What he said.
Yeah. All right, last question from me. Who should I have on the show next? Who should I be talking to?
It's a great question. So there's... I'll shout out to a guy that I know, Mike Smith. Mike Smith runs a company called Zero Co. He and I used to work together in advertising a while ago. And Zero Co. is a bathroom products and kitchen products like soaps and hand sanitizers and all that sort of stuff. But as a company, they're trying to get people away from single-use plastic.
Right.
And they have made an enemy out of single-use plastic. And he does all sorts of different things to, in a startup capacity to try and get attention for his brand. They recently built a pyramid in Egypt out of single-use plastic that has been trashed there, and got a whole bunch of PR off the back of it, and it was very interesting. But he would have a great perspective on branding and moments, and Mike Smith.
Brilliant.
Talk to him.
Thanks for listening to the Own the Moment podcast. If you liked this episode, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss upcoming episodes. And to suggest a guest or provide feedback, please visit our dedicated podcast hub at ownthemomentpod.com.